Brought to you by Brand South Africa.
As mentioned, the 2012 World Economic Forum is currently underway in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and Godfrey Mutizwa caught up with TP Nchocho, acting CEO at Development Bank SA, about and of course asked him about the bank's work within the infrastructure sector.
DBSA, primarily an infrastructure development bank with operations that cover South Africa as a country, but the rest of the SADC region as well at the moment, but with aspirations to cover the rest of the African continent.
So, when will that be?
Well, the discussions are in advanced stages, and the discussions are with the board of the Development Bank, as well as the government of the Republic of South Africa as the shareholder of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, and so decisions have to be made at that particular level. Sure. But safe to say, the discussions are at advanced levels.
Let's speak then about some of the work that you're doing in 2012. When you look back and compare it against 2011, what sort of percentage increase are we looking at, and where is that money going?
Over the past financial year, we invested just over 2.5 billion rand in infrastructure projects in the SADC region, excluding South Africa. The majority of the projects were in roads, were in energy projects, as well as telecommunications infrastructure projects. Yeah. What we see happening in the coming financial year is that probably we are likely to increase that in excess of 3 billion rand or so, because our primary geography is still SADC, and we see that going again primarily to energy projects as well as connectivity infrastructure, which is rail as well as roads kind of projects. But the other sector that we are closely looking at, which is very important to unlocking a number of sectors, is water infrastructure. And to that extent, we hope some of the projects that we are currently working on will come to fruition in this coming financial year.
Yeah. Now, when one talks about infrastructure spend in Africa and the kind of gap that we see in terms of funding that's required to get Africa's infrastructure up to speed, I mean, it gets to horrendous numbers. Let's speak about South Africa in terms of the deficit that we see in terms of the money that's required to try and make sure that the economies and cities grow.
Mm-hmm. In South Africa, our research as the DBSA indicates that the backlogs, just the backlogs, to cope with the past deficits are somewhere in the region of about 100 billion rand, primarily in the local authority, municipal infrastructure type projects, which are water, roads in local government, energy reticulation, so substantial amounts. So you can take that and, I don't know, multiply it by any number really for the rest of the SADC region and for the rest of the continent. So we're talking substantial numbers in the regions of in excess of probably 500 billion rand or so of infrastructure requirements.
Yeah. And how are you going to fund that?
The DBSA alone cannot be the provider of this kind of funding. That is why we are hoping, firstly, our brothers and colleagues in the African Development Bank will continue to provide their increased investment, which they've been doing over the past couple of years. In the second instance, we are seeing an increased volume of investment by our partner countries, particularly from Indian as well as Chinese investment banks or development banks. And so it looks like, from where we sit as the development bank, availability of capital is becoming more and more an easier factor. Yeah. However, we need to make circumstances and regulations and the feasibility of projects amenable to attracting such capital.